Hello and welcome everybody to Enterprising Minds, the latest episode. We have a brand new format for you, something new, something fun. Alex and Ruthie are not with us today, but we do have the wonderful Kristen Juve with us, and she's going to be the first guest. If you're unfamiliar with Kristen, she is a senior Agile coach over at General Mills currently, previously a technology product marketer, which you could expand on later. But she's one of my favorite people. Formerly a board member of socialmedia.org. Is that right?
They
I'm going
technically
off
got
your
everyone
LinkedIn thing.
a board member.
Perfect. Okay. But has an interesting background, kind of like me. Did not anticipate corporate world, which I think is going to be an interesting conversation for the job market currently, as well as some of the new grads coming into the world. I know, Kristen, you and I both graduated into the recession with arts degrees, so we have a lot of experience for what the current batch of grads have. But yeah, why don't you? I did the high level generic stuff. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? What would you add? What would you not?
Oh gosh. Yeah, you definitely hit the right high levels. Graduating at the height of the recession, I definitely have a very diverse background in doing the grunt work and just being able to pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
And the character development that came with that, that is very, very, very applicable in literally any other job too. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've worked in social media, organic paid social media. I've worked in SEO. I've worked for nonprofits. I've worked for startup tech companies. And I'm currently at General Mills. And I've been there for about 6 years. And I've been
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough to get to kind of explore and play between Agile methodology, project management, and product management and program management. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been a really good learning experience too.
Good. Yeah, and I know you and I, we met at 3M. We also had a podcast with each other during the pandemic.
Hmm.
So this is a blast from the past.
Yeah.
Um, and we usually would talk over a lot of project management
Hmm.
stuff. So being a senior Agile coach, I was going to say, how do you feel about Agile? But you kind of have to feel good about it. But how are you feeling about it? Agile methodologies now that it's 10 years old or so in a big corporation.
Uh, that is a really loaded question, unfortunately. Um, okay, so
Hmm.
I truly believe that Agile methodology is one of the best ways to work. It is not
Hmm.
always going to work in every environment. Obviously, like Lean or Six Sigma things can work better in plants or in other type things. But when it comes to
Right.
like marketing, I've seen it work really, really well. We were a part of that at 3M. There was what they called dojos and had these pods and really focused, highly scoped teams, even though they're really large.
Right.
That it worked. Like they took the strongest elements that were a problem in corporate and they took those out of the equation and it made it work.
Right. And
I
just quick
Yeah,
before we get too far into the weeds,
yeah.
high level for anybody who's unfamiliar with Agile, you largely, this is really broad brush. So, you know, you chunk the work out, basically. You set the high level goals, you chunk the work out, you mark what's a dependency, what are blockers, and you go in these sprints, 1 week, 2 week. I've seen some people do month long,
Agree. Yep.
which to me feels a little long. Um, but yeah, that's the high level. Go look it up if you want any more information, but otherwise, let's nerd out.
I would highly recommend looking at it too. And I think the biggest thing for me that I think a lot of leaders focus on about Agile methodology is doing things simultaneously. So it's not as simple of
Mm-hmm.
like, I do one thing, then hand it off to you, which is waterfall.
Right.
I'm going to get a soapbox box for a second. And if you do end up getting your CSM, you will probably learn that waterfall actually comes from a paper, a research paper that a gentleman wrote. And the entire paper, the thesis, is on how waterfall doesn't work. And yet, he included an image in the
Right.
front of the paper of waterfall. And that is what so many leaders took and were like, this is what this is about. So if you want to know the power of visualization, that right there sums it up.
That
Not saying
is
that waterfall
fascinating.
doesn't work, but there are definite like there's problems with everything. It's trade-offs. It just
The
depends on what you're looking to accomplish.
For
So
me, waterfall is way too optimistic. Like, I
yeah,
know so many people just bake in like, "Oh, this is the best case scenario. We're gonna launch on this date 3 months from now." And you're like, "Uh-huh."
it's not rooted in any sort of gut checks realities estimations.
Right.
It really focuses and leverages the hierarchy. So if your
Mhm.
boss says it's done by this day, you get it done, which means you as a worker, doesn't matter if you have a life
Right.
potentially. Which in
Yeah.
Agile, if you're doing it correctly, you end up with really empowered teams who are accountable to themselves, who are clear in their communication. One of the
Right.
things it's meant to do is to show you where you have problems, because we always have people problems, right? Like,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's process problems, but sometimes it's people and process. Like, it's never just one thing. And so having a process in Agile methodology that you can point to and go, okay, why didn't this happen? We agreed on this thing beforehand.
Right.
What's going on here? Your people can say, oh, I didn't know that was the expectation. Okay, cool. Now you know. Let's try it out. Okay, next time we're
Right.
checking in. Now we've got accountability built into place too. So I'm going all over the place with this, but true Agile methodology, I think, is not found in any single
Yeah.
corporation. Fortune 500 companies, I don't think there might be one or two teams in one of those large companies that's doing it really well,
Mhm.
but in general, that's not happening because our leaders like to get involved and they are not necessarily trained on Agile. It's much like when Dave and we started in the digital marketing world, our leaders didn't know what digital marketing was. They didn't know what a
Right.
click was, like what that actually meant, like where the click was, or
Yeah.
like the CTRs. Like they didn't know what any of that was. We had to educate them.
Yeah,
So
take this paper brochure that we're printing and, make the
yes,
website look like that. Yeah.
exactly. And then we want to see how many people come to it. And it's like, well, what do you want them to do when they come to it? Anyways,
Yeah.
um,
You're also
it's similar
assuming
with
people
Agile.
care
We're
about
still
what you have to say.
educating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like there's this whole, even though Agile is probably, so it was created in like what 1998, I think, and that was mainly only used for software development at the time, and is now
Yep.
permeated into every other area. I think because there's been so much miseducation about it, and people being too flexible with certain parts of the framework, that we now have this
Mhm.
perpetuated culture where like we're just like, why isn't this working? And then we're like, oh, Agile's stupid. We don't, it's not working. It's not good. Agile's not the way to do it. It's like, no,
Yeah,
that's not necessarily the answer.
there's also this sort of they took the word and started using it differently. So, like, there's
That
the
part.
dictionary Agile, then there's the Agile methodology Agile,
It's capital A
and
and lowercase a.
yep, and then, "Oh, we're moving with, agility."
Yep.
No, we're not. We're a Fortune 100 company. Like, could you get anything done by the end of the week? No. Like, the, yeah, that I think that led to a number of problems, but then also to your point earlier, the way that I've always experienced it, like, we implemented it at the agency that I worked at previously. I use it for home projects, I use it for
Yeah.
my personal projects, but I also use it the way that makes sense for my brain,
Yes.
which may or may not be the rest of my team, you
True.
know?
But that's why you have clean
Um,
rooms conversations.
right. But that, yeah, you need to have the whole team on board. And I have only
Yes.
had one or two teams in my entire career who were like, yep, we're all doing this.
That's
So,
somewhat on leadership to also help reinforce
yeah,
though. There's like
yeah.
there's so many elements to it, and it like anybody who's working in a larger company, even smaller companies, the politics of it, the people's
Yeah.
opinions of things, the biases that they hold, all of those play a part to all of it. So
Now, do you find Agile makes it easier to talk like up the corporate ladder, or
yeah,
is it harder to report out? Because I know I've always had the report outs with whatever Agile Scrum thing that we're doing, but um, whether or not they listen is another issue. We won't get into
I will
that.
say in general, yes. Also highly dependent on who your leader is. If they don't truly believe in agile or they just think it's a way to prioritize things,
Right.
not necessarily. It really does depend. However, if you're in a leadership type role within those pods, whether it's like a scrum master or a senior agile coach or the product owner or product manager, in my
Hmm.
world we have all of those pretty much. In some worlds you will not have all of those roles. If
Hmm.
you take it upon yourself to build your rapport with your team and and you can advocate for them, you can also build your rapport with your leader. And it doesn't necessarily have to be wrapped up in an agile bow. It can be taken from the agile world that you guys are running and then fed to them the way that they're asking for it too. So
Right.
there's
Right.
it's easier obviously if a leader has buy-in to all of agile methodology, but
Yeah,
like I
I
said,
mean that's a recurring theme on the podcast for sure is leadership buy-in, and
oh yeah,
it seems like this white whale, this sort of mythical thing, but it does happen.
it
It
does. I've experienced it and I didn't realize what I had when I had it. It was new.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's funny. Now, one of the big things that we've talked about, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you outside of the agile piece, um, is a lot of topics that you and I are passionate about, which is getting the like mentoring other kids and
Mm,
doing sort of informational interviews with other people.
mm.
Um, you are working with university recruiting, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct?
General Mills we have HR obviously, but then we have a
Right.
volunteer group, and we kind of have certain schools that we target. So UW-Madison is one that we target. I'm obviously an alumni, so uh, back when I started at General Mills, the person who was the team lead was leaving,
Hmm.
and they just reached out to every single person they could find that was a UW grad. And I was like, this
Interesting.
sounds really interesting. And so, not knowing what I was getting myself into, I signed up for it. I now have a co lead, and we've got a really awesome team. So, we get the opportunity to go to career fairs at UW, do talks with various groups there,
Hmm.
and get to meet like almost to be soon to be grads and help hire them into our program.
Nice. So, how's that experience been? What kind of conversations are you having?
It's really awesome, actually. Like, okay, it's I've met some of the coolest people. And like it is really fun to hang out with someone who's younger who still hasn't fully gotten in the corporate world and they're like, how hard is it to get in and what is it like? And have that very fresh take on everything. And they're like, oh,
Right.
you make crescent rolls and you have, like cinnamon
Right.
toast
My
crunch.
mom
Like,
knows about that product. That would be
right.
cool to work on.
So it's very tangible. Our products are very tangible. So that's a very cool aspect where they get to see everything.
Hmm.
Um, it is I've I have no worries for
Hmm.
the next generation. The kids who are graduating college right now, I'm not worried about them a bit.
Right.
I have had lots of conversations with them and I am not worried. It's funny because I was doing pony lessons for my daughter
Mm.
and I was sitting next to this older woman who was a grandma of one of the kids that was in the class. And
Okay.
somehow we got to talking and I was like, "Oh yeah, I help with recruiting." And she's like, "How are they?" And I was like, "I'm sorry?" She's like, "How are the kids? Like, are they okay? Like, can they talk to you? Like, can they talk to each other?" And I was like, "They're fantastic. They have all
Yeah.
the social skills. Like, they're human beings. It's
That's
not what you're hearing
hilarious.
on the internet of like, oh, we should be scared of this generation and they don't know how to use a computer. Have I had to teach my early career people how to use Teams? Yes. Is that weird? No, because Why would
Right.
they have had to know that piece of technology before coming
Right.
to our company? So
Right.
it's always funny to me what people think of like the next generation, but I have met some amazing, amazing young people who I am following along on their career path now. And it's really not just at General Mills, outside
Right.
General Mills as well. And it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see some of the conversations I've had with some students. Like, I, done some guest lecturing here and there, and like, um, I will put a challenge out to people when I'm doing that, and I'm like, on this slide is my exact contact info.
Yes.
Call me, like,
Yes.
ask me for a lunch or something, and nobody does it,
Mm-mm.
right? Except the last class that I was in, and maybe it was because they were entrepreneurship students. Um, but I had 4 different kids call me up, and that was
That's
great
awesome.
because they were asking awesome questions, and then there was, the backgrounds were, like, all over the place, and there were some of them. There were a couple where they're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm a entrepreneurship and a bioengineering model," or, like, something where I'm just like, "I can't talk to you. I
Yeah. You're way more accomplished
I'm not
than me, and I'm 38. Like, what?
I'm not smart enough to talk to you."
Same, same. I've had those similar situations. It's
Yeah,
fascinating. And they're like, I'm so nervous. You're so like, you work at it. And I'm like, I'm a human being.
right.
Networking and like the word networking is like the scariest word to every single human being.
Mhm.
And I find it so funny in every single mentoring situation I've ever been in. I'm
Mhm.
like, have the audacity to throw time on someone's calendar, to ask them for some time. So obviously, like it makes it way easier. You're already working at a company, and if it's a really big company, Fortune 500 company, and you're wanting to
Right.
learn about a different space, you figure out who a person is, even if they're 2 levels above you, and you ask for
Right.
30 minutes. The worst they can
Yeah.
say is no, and now you know they're kind of
Well,
a
and then you
jerk,
might be surprised too. Like, I
and you might be
remember.
surprised.
Yeah, yeah, there are those people too,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Um, I know when I first joined 3M, there I took a swing, and there was a guy who was a senior vice president, and I emailed him and just said, "Hey," I mean, it helped. I knew his daughter, so that helped. But
Doesn't hurt.
but he didn't know me at all, right? But I said, "Hey, I just joined 3M, wondering if I can ask you about the experience," and like totally taking advantage of the new kid card, you
Oh,
know.
100%.
And I fully expected him to say no to me, because he's 14 levels above me. Why would he even waste the time, right?
Hmm.
And I just got an email. You can tell he tapped it out on his iPhone. Just 15 minutes, 7:30 in the morning on this day, and he was driving to the airport while we talked, and um, that's what I got. I got 15 minutes with him, and it was great. And pretty much everything he said is exactly what came true. So, like, don't even, yeah, I would say, even to anybody, just don't even be afraid of how big you
Hmm.
think they are. Just still do it. Um,
There's one
totally.
other element to this that I never considered. Well, I shouldn't say that. Back in 2020, I was on maternity
Hmm.
leave. I vividly remember this. I had my baby strapped to me, and I had a former colleague message me. And it, long story of how that happened, but he was like, "Do you mind chatting for a little bit? I like need to figure out like what my next steps are."
Mm,
And he had his like where he was going was nowhere where I had been, but he just wanted to kind of understand a little bit more about like networking.
right.
We were chatting, and he's like, "But then don't I have to like maintain that relationship?" And I was like, "No,
No.
no, they know what you're doing. They know it's just like it's a coffee chat to say hi. And if you guys happen to hit it off and cool, but like don't feel like you owe them like I have to check in every holiday and wish them a Merry Christmas and a Happy Easter and all the like no, that is not no one in the professional world expects that. And it's
Right.
so different than a friendship in that way. Like and I think if I would have known that earlier and like having that conversation with him really opened my eyes of like, oh, other people felt this way too, where it's like, I can't maintain 100,000 relationships, even if it's just to
Right.
check in on people. No one's expecting that. Everyone, people who have been in a company for a few years understand that this is just how it works too. You just You chat with
Right.
somebody, and if great, if you hit it off, you want to be friends, awesome. If not, also that's okay too.
Right. And then with that too is I mean, there's this sort of natural ebbs and flows of,
Yes.
you're working together in that company, they leave, you leave, whatever.
Yeah.
It happens. And then, um, yeah, I will say that all the cool opportunities that I've had have been based on the networking piece. So,
Yes.
at least for anybody who is looking for a job or is graduating into the current thing, um, network. Just go on LinkedIn and don't like digital troll them. But like if they're doing something cool, you can say something. I saw
I
that face, but ultimately,
I agree. I agree. I agree. I do want to offer one example that recently happened to
perfect.
me.
Okay.
So, for whatever circumstances, I was potentially well, okay. General Mills had some layoffs. And
Hmm.
before that, we got warning that was going to happen. So I started questioning, like, hey, what would I do if I got
Right.
laid off? Right. So, like, you start to just kind of examine your world. You got to do what's best for you.
Right.
You got to survive. It
It's a
ended up
natural human response.
exactly, exactly. Um, I ended up thinking about potentially changing my career completely. And in doing so, totally freaked out my husband, understandably. And so we
Right.
had, a lot of conversations, and it was more like, hey, before you completely stop working and going back to school, could you look at other roles that are at other companies if you were to be laid off that like fit your skill set, but also are more aligned to this closer to this other like total career pivot? And I was
Right.
like, that's a really good idea. So in all the research that I was doing in this one total different career, I figured out that like everything else in the world, there was a software, a SaaS for it.
Right.
And I've worked with SaaS and I have done Agile Methodology and I've done product management. So I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to look at this company. And I started being like, I think I want to work for this company. I really like them. And it took on its a life of its own. And I was like, huh, well, there's no way I'm getting hired because like we know everyone's getting laid off right now. I can't just like
Hmm.
submit a resume and hope that they'll call me because that probably will not happen. They probably have a ton
Right.
of resumes. So I did a little looking around on LinkedIn and I found out that there was someone who worked there who knew someone that I knew really well.
Right.
So I reached out to that person. I said, hey, can you introduce me? And they were like, oh my
Right.
God, yeah. Within a few days, I had a meeting with him. He was fantastic. He was so kind and so willing to just chat with me. He knew exactly what I was talking, like why I was calling him. I was like, hey, I applied for this
Hmm.
role, blah, blah, blah. He's like, send me your resume. I didn't get the job, but it was
Right.
really cool to like get to learn more about the company. I was like, I'm really interested in this company. I think that you guys might be a good fit for me. I'm wondering what your pain points are. I'm wondering what the good things are. I'm wondering like how the culture is. And I got a lot of those questions answered in that meeting to even figure out if I'd want to continue, if I were to get like an interview, if I'd want to continue down that path. So like when
Mm.
you're doing networking and you have like an informational, you have these set of questions. It gets you information that allows you to move forward and if you want to or not too. So like it's not just
Right.
simply like you're
Right.
laying yourself bare at someone's feet and being like, hire me.
Right.
But
Yeah, there's
no,
nothing more repulsive than feeling like someone's desperate.
unfortunately that is the truth.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sucks because that level of vulnerability like should be seen as a huge advantage.
Hmm.
Um, but it's not because in this world we live in,
It's
that
just
is
not.
an opportunity
Yep.
for people to be able to hire you at a lesser rate. So
Hmm. Yeah, I remember along those lines about, doing what you want to do. I think there have been major steps in my career where, um, like in college, I happened to meet this woman who was going back to school after being a TV producer out in Hollywood, and she had worked on a number of things that, if you're of a certain age, you would have seen it on cable.
mm,
Um, And so I told her, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to school, creative writing, music composition. These are the things I want to try to do. Like, what do you recommend?" She's like, "Let me put you in touch with, these people." So then I started calling them and talking to them and just
mhm.
finding out what they thought, like, what's it actually like in the industry and whatever. One guy got his start, like his big break was to play bass guitar for Ray Charles.
That's really cool.
And he was from Canada. And then he did one of the Call of Duty soundtracks. He did a number of film scores that you would have recognized. Like, very, very cool individual in terms of, you know, what he did. And it was, to your point, what's it really like in this industry?
Yes.
You know, because I had already released a couple of records, but I hadn't done the film Hollywood thing yet, you know, or like even independent films or anything like that. So it was like, what's this film scoring world like? And it was fascinating to say what he said. And I go back to that conversation a lot because sometimes the thing that he said is, don't be the kids that come off of the bus every day thinking that once you move here, you'll make it. Like if you have some other skill, like for example, my creative writing background, like leverage that to be able to do the film scoring if you want to do that.
That's good,
right,
yeah.
because
That's
that's your way in, because now all of a sudden you have 2 skills instead of 1.
Yep.
Which make you, you know, you could write your own film and then you also score it because you do both. And then you get jobs for both, right? And I've seen this in the marketing side too. I don't know, maybe it resonates with you, but you know, oh, I do communications, but I can also build websites, right?
Yes.
You know, all that kind of stuff. All of that leverages into things. And it was some of the mentorship stuff that I've been doing. I've been telling them, like, go, like, you have the current skill sets that you do, but if you want something in a different field, or you want a way in but nobody's hiring, like find some non-profs or volunteer for somebody that needs some help, or a cause that you like, so that you can at least say that you're doing the thing.
Yes. And you will learn things.
Right.
Even if it's on a smaller scale, you still will learn things I mean, I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in photography. I knew a ton about photography. I did awesome internships for Reader's Digest and Freedom Madison. And then nothing. And like, I was like, okay, how do I maneuver through this? Like, had no idea what my life could look like. But helping my sister set up her website, doing my own website for my photography stuff, like that was the first little piece of things. And it started to like, and when you're fresh out of school too, you're like, it's, how do I explain this? You know that you don't know things, but you don't know what it feels like to know things. And when you finally hit like, I don't know, 28, 30, whatever, it depends on how many years you've been in whatever area you've been in, you're like, this is all the same. Same story, different day, slightly different flavor. I've done this before. It's not my first rodeo. And it starts to all make sense. And like, you could start to piece it, and it's something you can use for interview questions, and it's things you can do to set yourself differently. You encounter the same situation and you're like, I didn't like how I handled it last time. I'm going to do something different this time.
Right. And at that point, you need to start worrying about your own biases and, you know, knee-jerk reactions instead of.
Oh, that's fun too. Yeah. It's hard
that
to.
That is a different podcast.
That is a different podcast. Many hours could be recorded on that topic.
Well, perfect. Thank you for your time. Where can people find you online if they want to learn more, maybe reach out for a coffee?
I'm on LinkedIn, Kristen Juve. I don't think I have it fully updated at this exact moment. So if you were to be just really on top of it, you would notice my LinkedIn hasn't really been touched in a while.
I'm sure no one will notice.
What's that?
I'm sure no one noticed. No one will notice.
No, not at all.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. And everybody, like and subscribe, share with your friends. Hopefully this has been helpful. We'll have new Pathways newsletters out each week of the year. Happy 2026. And see you down here.